Upon whom is fasting obligatory? This is what will be discussed in today's episode.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, dear viewers. So in this episode, we'll be discussing that upon whom is fasting obligatory. So there are many detailed discussions in relation to this, and the fuqahas and the scholars, which is the legal jurists, they have listed many conditions, and the numbers of the conditions, the prerequisites, which means upon whom fasting is compulsory and necessary, it varies, but it just depends on the different perspective that they approach it. But otherwise, the conclusion is exactly the same. I will simplify to four main conditions. There are four conditions in order for a fast to be obligatory upon a person. The first one, number one, is you have to be a Muslim. Obviously, you have to be a Muslim because one of the conditions for any of the ibadats to be obligatory is you have to have Iman. Iman, and this is a unanimous accepted condition that even if a disbeliever or a non-Muslim, if they were to observe fasting, then their fast will not be accepted. Why? Is because Iman and Islam are the condition, the prerequisites, they are the conditions for fasting to be obligatory. So number one is you have to be a Muslim. Number two, you have to be sane. Sane, in other words, that you have to be mentally stable. Now, what I mean by mentally stable is that you are sane and you have your cognitive capacity is completely intact. You're able to differentiate between right from wrong, and you're a normal human being. Basically, you're a normal human being. Your mental capacity is intact. Your cognitive capacity is intact. You're conscious of your surroundings. You're conscious. You have awareness. This is the opposite to insane. So if a person who is insane, in other words, they've completely lost their rational capacity, their cognitive capacity, they're cognitively impaired. Like, for example, a person who is who's not able to distinguish between right from wrong, for instance. He is mentally incapacitated, for instance. The doctors have said that, look, this person, they've lost complete total consciousness of the surroundings. They can't tell the difference between right from wrong, etc. This is what we refer to as majnoon. In Arabic is referred to as majnoon, completely insane. Such people, they are not exempted for fasting, exempted. So in other words, for this person who has to be sane, he's mentally intact, then fasting is compulsory upon them. Number two. Number three is you have to be baligh. Baligh, of course, a non-baligh child, then fasting is not compulsory upon them. There are many detailed discussions about bulugh, which is beyond the scope of a discussion here. But a minor child, for instance, or a child who has not attained sexual maturity, for instance, right? Fasting is not followed upon them. For a female, for example, is when they start experiencing menstruation. When they start menstruating, that's a sign that they are now baligh. Fasting becomes followed upon them, just as salah becomes followed upon them. Which obviously, because due to menstruation, you can't fast or you can't pray salah. But that is a sign of bulugh. That's a sign of bulugh. And then a minor child, for example, right, if he reaches to a specific age, 12, 13 or 14 years old, if he sees a wet dream, for instance, and then ejaculates, that's a sign that he is now baligh. Otherwise, if he reaches to the age of 14 years or 7 months Islamically, which is basically 15 years Islamically, or English is 14 years and 7 months, then they're considered to be baligh. In this case, they're considered to be a baligh. Fasting now becomes obligatory and necessary upon them. And number four is fit and healthy. Fit and healthy, what this means is that you have sihat. In other words, that you are healthy, physically fit enough to fast in the month of Ramadan. If you are not physically fit enough, that where fasting will cause physical harm to you due to health, for instance, you're really ill, your health is deteriorating, for instance, and fasting itself will cause you undue harm, then you can, as we discussed in the previous episode, that the Quran states, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, you can now delay and postpone your fast to other days. This also includes a pregnant woman. Now, pregnant women, as I will discuss in the episodes later, that a pregnant woman, by default, she should try to fast. She's encouraged to fast. If she's heavily pregnant, for instance, or the pregnancy it's causing a physical weakness, that whereby fasting will cause her harm, it'll weaken her body, or it will harm the child or the fetus inside of her. If fasting was to cause her harm, only then she has the concession of not to fast. Likewise, for example, a breastfeeding woman, that she has to eat in order to provide nourishment. Yes, provide nourishment to her infant baby. And now, if she was to fast, she was not able to provide enough sufficient milk for the infant baby. Then she can choose not to fast. Now, others, for example, another conditions are, for instance, he has to be muqim. Muqim basic means he has to be resident, someone that who's not a musafir. As we discussed in the previous episode, that fasting fasting is not obligatory upon a musafir. A musafir is someone who fulfills all the necessary conditions to do qasr, to reduce the salah from 4 rakats to 4 rakat fard to 2 rakats fard. If they fulfill these conditions, then fasting is now waived from them. They can delay the fast later on. Others, for example, include examples of fitness healthy, is that if, let's say, there's somebody who's extremely ill, or who is permanently ill to the point that there's no hope of them to recover ever in the future. This is known as Shaykhul Fani, meaning a frail old person who has lost all hope of fasting. Okay, permanently ill person, then fasting is no longer obligatory upon them. Instead, they will pay a fidya. They will consider to be a pay a fidya. Likewise, you have to be clean. So in this is specific to menstruating women. So if a woman who's menstruating, obviously she cannot fast. Fasting is not permissible for her. However, she will have to make up for those fasts after make up for a fast later on. She cannot make the intention of fasting, but instead she'll have to make up for the fast afterwards. Of course, we know that when it comes to salah, there's an exception. She does not need to make qada of those fasts. So we leave it at that. Jazakumullahu khair, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.